iniciativa que hizo y se retomó. Y esa iniciativa hoy cuenta con representantes en prácticamente más de 40 países y trata de constituirse en una suerte de lobby de presión al estilo de lo que los norteamericanos, o más concretamente los estadounidenses, han llevado a cabo y que tan buenos resultados ha dado a efectos de que tenemos esa desclasificación oficial. Es importante encontrar el reconocimiento de las instituciones, tener contactos dentro del ámbito político, dentro del ámbito científico, para intentar concienciar, sería la palabra, a estas instituciones de esta realidad que para nosotros es cotidiana. Nosotros estamos familiarizados realmente con el tema ovni, pero no así las instituciones. Y ICER pretende ser esto, un lobby de presión que, aprovechando que en su seno hay astrofísicos, científicos, investigadores, periodistas, en fin, gente de muy variadas profesiones y, por lo tanto, con muy variados contactos, podamos influir desde nuestros respectivos lugares, áreas de influencia y países a propiciar una mayor investigación e implicación de las instituciones. ICER, lo he dicho antes, es Coalición Internacional de Investigación o Búsqueda de Vida Extraterrestre, porque todos los que formamos parte de ICER hemos firmado una declaración de creencia, ¿cierto? Yo creo que los extraterrestres visitan la Tierra y que el fenómeno ovni está íntimamente relacionado con el fenómeno extraterrestre. Y tenemos una amplia representación de ICER. Ha venido gente de Noruega, ha venido gente de Italia, ha venido gente del Reino Unido, ha venido gente de Portugal, en fin, me dejo seguro muchas personas de Alemania, gracias Robert. Ha venido muchos representantes que van a ver ustedes desfilar hoy aquí por este escenario. Pero antes de que le dé el micrófono a mi querido amigo Robert Fleischer, que va a ser quien haga de maestro de ceremonias en la presentación y por lo tanto vaya llamando uno a uno a quienes forman parte y quieren explicarles aspectos de ICER, vamos a ver un vídeo para que ustedes se hagan una composición de lo que les vamos a hablar.
ICER, the International Coalition for Extraterrestrial Research.
Il fenomeno degli UFO, o UAP, ha valenza mondiale ed è stato investigato per oltre 70 anni.
And it may have profound implications for humanity and society.
Esto actúa con inteligencia, probablemente extraterrestre y de origen no humano.
Die Frage ist also, wie sollen wir mit diesem Phänomen umgehen?
Foi por isso que fundamos a ICER, a Coligação Internacional para a Investigação Extraterrestre.
ICER currently has representatives in 27 countries on 5 continents.
We are scientists, academics, and leading UFO, UAP researchers around the globe.
Und wir finden, es ist an der Zeit, dass wir uns auf diesen Kontakt vorbereiten.
Seriously. And the time is now.
Y es por eso que ICER está tratando de sentar las bases para una nueva realidad.
Nós estamos juntando o máximo de informação possível sobre todos os aspectos deste fenômeno.
ICER is creating awareness programs to help people prepare for this new reality.
E l'ICER vuole promuovere relazioni pacifiche con queste intelligenze. Aceasta este o cale de descoperire pentru întreaga omenire.
¿Cómo queremos dar forma a nuestro futuro?
Let's think about it.
Preparados para el contacto. Y esa es una sensación que muchos de nosotros albergamos, sobre todo después de que durante este tiempo de pandemia hayan aumentado las observaciones entre un 30 y un 50%, dependiendo del país del que hablamos. Es el momento, pues, de presentar en sociedad, en exclusiva para Europa, a esta coalición internacional de investigadores que tiene aquí a su vicepresidente, Gary Heseltine, pero quien va a estar dándonos paso y haciendo de maestro de ceremonias es un alemán que habla español, y habla muy bien español. Robert Fleischer.
Muchísimas gracias, Josep. Es un gran placer y un honor para mí estar otra vez aquí en Barcelona en el World Ufology Congress. Y quería utilizar este momento para presentarme a mí mismo. Yo soy el representante de ICER en Alemania. Es la coalición internacional para la investigación extraterrestre. Es una coalición internacional, es decir, que tenemos varias reuniones al mes, todos juntos de Nueva Zelanda, Australia, Gran Bretaña y todo eso, a veces a horas muy tarde. Y ahora tengo el gran placer de introducir a Gary Heseltine, que es el vicepresidente de la Coalición Internacional para la Investigación Extraterrestre, para que nos hable un poco sobre nuestra organización. Bienvenido, Gary Heseltine.
Thank you, Robert. Welcome, everyone. My name is Gary Heseltine, and I'm the Vice President of the International Coalition for Extraterrestrial Research, a new organization. It's an international NGO. We are registered in Portugal. It is a bona fide non-government office that's basically wanting to take this to the highest levels of governance. I'm appreciative to We Are Love for inviting all the many representatives here from ICER to Barcelona. It's a beautiful city. I've been here before, never lectured here, so it's a thrill for me to be here. Now, ordinarily, this little bit of an introduction would be done by our president, Roberto Panotti, but he has had some aircraft difficulties. Not that he's a pilot, but he's had some problems that stuck at the airport. So he will be joining us hopefully by the end of this presentation, and then we'll introduce him as and when he arrives. What I'd like to do now is just invite all the ICER members to come onto the stage, please. Come on, Josef, Lacazar, Paolo, right, and then we'll get them to introduce each other. So everybody on stage, please. In a line, come on, don't be nervous. Some come this side. That's it, some come this side. Three this side. Robert, if you ask them to introduce themselves.
Yes. Eamon.
I'm Eamon Ansborough from the Republic of Ireland, Irlanda, and I'm an astronomer, and I'm the chair of the scientific research group within ICER.
My name is Erling Strand. I'm a representative from Norway, and I'm also had been working with a project in Norway called Project Titán. I must also mention the reason why I'm not part of the list in the program is that I decided to arrive here just a couple of days ago, so they didn't know.
Hello, my name is Guido Ferrari. I am a representative for Switzerland. I am journalist and producer. I did many documentaries on this field.
I'm Cesar Filipov. I'm representative of Bulgaria. I'm a physicist, astrophysicist, and I am the member of ISER.
Hola, buenos días nuevamente. Yo soy siempre Paolo Guizzardi, de italiano, y soy representante nacional para la Italia de ISER y soy también miembro del Centro Ufológico Nazionale, la más importante organización ufológica de la Italia.
Hola a todos, soy Francisco Morán Correa, soy uno de los fundadores de ISER, soy también el director europeo de ISER y fundador y coordinador del movimiento de exopolítica en Portugal.
Y a mí ya dirán, este es un pesado, pero yo soy Josep Guijarro, soy investigador y periodista del fenómeno OVNI, tengo varios libros escritos sobre este particular y soy el delegado de ISER en España.
Muchísimas gracias, estimados señores y colegas. Muchas gracias. Ahora quisiera invitar a Gary Hazeltine a presentar un poco de cómo fue que nosotros creamos a ISER y cuáles eran los obstáculos, los acontecimientos y todo eso. Entonces, Gary.
Thank you. As ever, great compare. Moderator, thank you very much, Robert Fleischer. Just before I go into an overview of what ISER is and what we're trying to achieve, think about what you've just seen. How often do you see physicists, academics, astronomers, and ufologists on the same stage? Pretty never. Think about that. So this is where ISER is saying we've got to get rid of egos. We've got to set all the egos away because we're dealing with one humanity, the human race. This affects everyone, and arguably is the biggest subject in the world, in my opinion. So it affects everything. So the fact that we can put those egos aside and we can all work together in a cohesive, non-fighting way, like adults, that's important. If ufology had been able to organize itself many years ago, we would have been far more politically powerful in terms of creating pressure on governments. But we weren't, but now we have a chance. And as an international NGO, we have said that we want to take this to the highest levels of governance, which includes the United Nations. And we will talk, one of our representatives will talk about that in due course. Okay, so we're into a brief PowerPoint presentation. About 3.5 weeks ago, I was in San Marino, which is a little principality next to Italy. I just wanted you to give a round of applause to our president, Roberto Pinotti.
Maybe Gary, before you proceed, would you like him
to make some remarks? Yes.
To make some opening remarks.
Yeah. Come on, Roberto.
Thank you.
Roberto Pinotti, by the way, is a legend. He has been in this subject for over 50 years. He was an ex-military guy, very well-heeled. He knew them all. Heineck, everybody, Valet. He's met them all. Make some remarks.
Thank you. Well, I am sorry, but my flight was delayed, and besides, there were some little problems with taxis. So, well, just to open, did you begin?
Yes, I did it for you. But you just make
Oh, well, no.
A bit closer to your mouth.
Yes. No, what I should like to say is that ISER is probably something quite new, because normally, since 1947, well, a lot of ufological study groups were born. But the problem is that everybody did his work for himself. Exactly. And sometimes in competition, because unfortunately this is normal in human relationships. Well, besides, youth organizations are formed by people. So this means a lot of people. For instance, in the United States, MUFON has a lot of members. In other parts of the world, probably there are not so numerous people, but this is not important. What is important for most of these organizations is the number of their supporters. And this is important, but it is not totally important, because you know that quantity does not mean quality. So we are trying to do something quite new, in the sense that we are not a new UFO organization, even international. Our purpose is to assemble worldwide a serious group of experts having something to say really, because they studied the problem for decades. And so, working all together, probably now are able to say something not new, but important. And so we began the story of ICER in a very curious way, because we started this in China. I and Don Schmidt in the United States were asked to come to a congress in Chongqing, in China, because, well, incredibly, but China was going to start an initiative to put the UFO problem to the United Nations. And so we went to Chongqing, we had this congress, and we were frankly very surprised to see that they were really going to do something. Then we had another occasion for this in Moscow, a second part of this initiative, and frankly we had a very interesting international public for all this. Then something else happened. There was the China-United States commercial war. Besides, then we had also COVID-19. And so the Chinese initiative in practice finished, died. And you see, we were asked to assemble people for this initiative, and we had done this. But at that point, what could have we to do? To say to everybody, okay, it was just a joke, let's go home. No, we decided not to do this, and so we started the idea to form ICER. We did it, and now our goal is to start initiatives worldwide with political and initiative everywhere, because what we think is that authorities may do really something with our support. And in fact, you saw that, for instance, in the United States, we had the Pentagon position quite changed. Now, incredibly, but UFOs do exist. In other words, people who studied UFOs up to this moment, well, were not strange people, but serious people studying the subject. Besides, UFOs exist. They are something technical. They are something advanced from a technical point of view, and they are under intelligent control, and we don't know where they come from. I think that's enough. And so now we are trying we are doing our best to confront with authorities everywhere in the world. And the San Marino situation is just the beginning of something else. Well, I can say this. Now I think that we may go on. Please.
Okay, thank you very much. Roberto, our president. Thank you. He just took all my lines that I was going to use. But there you go. He's a president, he can do what he likes. And he does. Right, okay. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to take it a little bit further for about the next 20 minutes. The next 20 minutes, giving a brief overview of a presentation that was 50 minutes long in San Marino. We've got other things that we want to talk about, so I'm going to cut it down to about 20 minutes. So I will kind of go through these slides quite quick. What you can see there is that after the initial meetings that had taken place in China, the Chinese then asked Don Schmidt and Roberto Panotti to go away and try to assemble more nationalities to create this coalition, which they did, and I came in quite quickly after that. Don Schmidt invited me to go to Moscow, which was in October of 2018. And what you can see there is Don Schmidt. He's now our deputy representative for Russia, Zagranian Evgeny. Andrea Simondoni, she was one of the original people in Moscow for Argentina. AJ Javad, Brazil. Obviously Roberto. That's the leader of the Chinese, Jim Fan. And this actually was a Russian cosmonaut. It was actually a joint Russian-Chinese conference, which is a bit bizarre in itself, although we were led to believe it was totally funded by the Chinese. Anyway, so that's what it was. We met as a group, maybe 8 or 9 of us, managed to get through all the red tape, and it takes a lot to get to Moscow because of the previous Cold War connotations. But beautiful city, I'm really glad I went. So we got there. We had 3 days of meetings. And as far as I'm aware, this is the only photograph in existence that I'm aware of actually one of those meetings taking place with the Chinese leader. Now, had the Chinese initiative not stopped, we'd already decided that he would be the president because they were putting in all the money. And they were going to create a headquarters in China. That's what we were told. So this is basically a meeting around the table, establishing principles, which I'll come to in a bit. Now, at that initial Moscow conference, it was important because we established a couple of important things, really important democratic things. One country, one vote in ISA. So if you represented your country, nobody else could. You could have a deputy, but it was down to the representative. If you were ill, that's why you have a deputy, they could vote. But one country, one vote means that the size of Russia is the size of San Marino. Now, you wouldn't get that in a real world. So that was an important principle to say that just because you're a massive country, you get more votes. No, we're not doing that. One country, one vote. They agreed. I was surprised, but they agreed. And the other thing that I was really keen to say is that if we're going to do this properly, every one of our representatives and deputies will have to sign an oath and agree on a set of words that they will sign their name to publicly. And we'll come to that. So, like I say, I aren't going to go through all of this because I've got 20 minutes, but suffice to say that Moscow was very important. We did say, if you're serious, China, we will have a conference in China by February of 2019. Cutting a long story short, that didn't happen. No real excuse given, just didn't happen. They said, oh, it might happen in the summer of 2019. We got to the summer of 2019, that didn't happen too. We got 1 or 2 conflicting stories of what was going on, nothing really very convincing, and we began to realize that the Chinese probably were not going to be able to deliver on their promises. But by then, we had about 20 countries who were willing to join this coalition. And it was a mixture of scientists, academics, and researchers. So gradually what happened is that during early 2020, when we went into COVID and pandemic, and lockdown started to appear, everybody started to use Zoom. And I thought, wow, everybody stays in touch now using the medium of a Zoom screen. So why can't we do that? Why don't we try to put this together now in a virtual world online? So I then took out a Zoom account a pro Zoom account and then started organising and contacting and say, come on, let's have an online meeting. And that did not begin until June of 2020. It then took us a further 11 months before we were ready to launch. Yeah? Which was on May the 25th, 2021. And we deliberately launched ahead of the anticipated US DNI report, the task force report on UFOs, UAP, in the States. So we went public on the 25th of May, and actually we got it absolutely right because on the 25th of June the DNI report came out. We'll talk about that briefly. So, this is the oath that every representative and deputy has to sign. There is a Spanish version, because we have a lot of Spanish speakers, South American speakers, Spanish speakers. But this is what it says. And every one of us has said this. Now, if you think about the past, one group's better than another group. My group's better than your group. My group's more important than your group. This brings us all to a level playing field. You don't get to be a representative of ISA unless you sign this. I, Gary Heseltine, affirm that it is my personal belief that an extraterrestrial stroke non-human intelligence is interacting with planet Earth. Big statement. The UFO, UAP issue is complex. Yes, it is. But it is important to acknowledge that it's real and it acts with intelligence. That's what we're deducing after 70 years of research. My belief is based on both physical, i.e. radar, film, photographic, evidence-based, yeah, and trace evidence and the testimony of highly qualified people like pilots, etc., radar operators, that kind of thing. Furthermore, I'm prepared to say it publicly. Where else do you get UFO groups all agreeing on something? Never. So this is, again, unprecedented. And this is what makes us different. Of course, I will do that for you. I did not realize that you were not as quick as me. Is that too slow? I will go a little bit faster. I will try to get it right, sorry. I do get excited. Right. Basically, 11 months of preparation led to our launch. And it was a very, very busy time. We created a launch pack. We did various things for our representatives and deputies. And in each of our, what was 27 countries at our launch, there were also national initiatives, i.e. writing letters to all sectors of society, including prime ministers, presidents, the military, the educational boards, universities, to try to say this is an important topic and there is a new organization taking form. I'll just put it down there. That's our logo that we came up with. So, 25th, that was the initial press release. We also spent a lot of money on a worldwide press release through one of like the Reuters. In the end, we used a Canadian news agency that went global. So that went to all around the world to try to launch us into the media. Now, one of the things that ISA is different is we ask the question, we should be preparing now for a new reality. This was ahead of the DNI report. We should be preparing now for something that is real and acts with intelligence. Okay? So what we did and what we are doing is creating awareness programs. In simple terms, educational programs aimed at all sectors of society, corporate, religion, military, government, the public, children, because they all need to be educated about this very important subject that is quickly gathering pace. And we'll talk about why the circumstances are more important than ever. So, that's what we did. We want to create this new reality. I always have to laugh at my friend Francisco because it looks like he's trying to hold up a bank. but he's actually registering at the official office our company or our organisation as an international NGO. But it doesn't have to look strange. But there you go. This is the leadership of the Executive Council. So you've got Roberto Panotti, myself as Vice President, Francisco, he's the Director for Europe, Susan Hansen for Australasia, which is obviously Australia and New Zealand, Don Schmidt for North America, Canada, Adam Vard for South America. We've got 6 South American national representatives, and Andrea Simon, because AJ has been ill, so Andrea has been invited onto the Executive Council, and she's from Argentina, one of the 6 South American. Some of the people, I said earlier, I'm going to skip through this part because there's other more important parts. We've got other things to read out and have people up on the stage. But what makes us different is that we're this coalition of scientists. And for example, most people don't realize how important some of our scientists are. Lakazar Filipov taught the first Bulgarian astronauts. Now, you don't get to do that if you're not pretty good at being a physicist. We've got Eamon Ansborough, who is an astronomer, and he is just about to feature in a book with Avi Loeb, who is here, obviously with the Galileo project, talking about that. But he will be in a book, submitting a chapter of a book, I think, with about 19 astronomers, something like that. Okay, so very eminent. And of course, we've got very top people in terms of UFO, UAP research. I personally still like UFO, so I say both, UFO, UAP. As you can see there is a Joseph Guijaro, is that right? Guijaro? There you go. We've got Guido, who joined us recently from Switzerland. Rodrigo should have been here today. Apparently he may be here tomorrow. So yes, Rodrigo, coming all the way from Chile, is going to be here tomorrow. Okay? So, we recently have created our own scientific research group. So the scientists amongst ISA, they are going to work together and then formulate the kind of research that they want to do on behalf of ISA with a view to doing the research and then putting it out to the scientific world for evaluation as per science. Now, obviously, we're creating initiatives, and shortly, I think there he is, Robert rather. Robert will invite 1 or 2 people to come on stage to talk about some of the initiatives. And we have a couple of important things to announce at this conference. Like I said to you earlier, we're taking this subject very seriously, and we're not afraid to deal with difficult issues. The whole area around the contact phenomenon, abduction, however you want to phrase it, is hugely complicated. But no doubt many of you here will be influenced by that. So, Robert, if you would like to invite someone to read out the contact statement that we are putting out for the very first time publicly, and you're the first people to hear it.
Okay. Muchas gracias. Gary Hasseltine. Ahora, como habéis visto, somos una organización internacional y eso sí nos permite hacer algunas declaraciones más amplias fuera de lo habitual, ¿no? Pero haremos una declaración aún más amplia porque queremos que San Marino se convierta en la Ginebra de los UFOs, de los ovnis. Con ese propósito, quisiera invitar a Paolo a venir a subir en el escenario porque tiene una declaración muy importante por hacer. Ecco, bienvenido Paolo Guizzardi.
Gracias. De nuevo, gracias, señoras y caballeros. Entonces voy a leer una declaración importante. Naturalmente esto será en inglés. El texto es lo siguiente, en inglés. The Executive Council of the International Coalition for Extraterrestrial Research, ICER, confirms that Monday, the 13th of September 2021, a small delegation from the Centro Ufologico Nazionale, the CUN, and ICER attended an introductory meeting with Mr. Andrea Belluzzi, the Minister of Culture and University of San Marino, and that documentation pertaining to Project Titán was presented to him, which he accepted on behalf of the San Marino government. You want to say something? Okay. So now I should have to say something concerning this Project Titán, because this is the first time that it's being described publicly. Now you see here on the screen the first page, which is a plan for a joint action by ICER, Centro Ufologico Nazionale on one side, and the Republic of San Marino on the other side. So the documentation which was presented to the Minister of Culture and University of San Marino is this one. So I will speak briefly on this project. The project is meant to invite the government of San Marino to present a proposal to the UN Secretary General, the Secretary General of the United Nations, for the creation within the UN structure of a small office tasked with the organization of a periodic World Conference on UFOs, or UAP, if you prefer. This conference is going to be held in the Republic of San Marino, and it's meant to assess the state of the studies and researches on the UAP or UFO phenomenon worldwide. So this is, and the project foresees that the Centro Ufologico Nazionale, along with ICER, will support the authorities of San Marino for everything which is necessary for the development of this project. So in a sense, if you will, we could say that San Marino could really become the Geneva of the UFOs, because San Marino is not, how can I say, is not unfamiliar and places a great importance on its neutrality, its independence and neutrality, which make the small republic a very important and very proper place for this kind of international meeting. So this is basically what the Project Titán is about. So in case I will be available for further clarification. So now I go back the microphone to Gary. Thanks very much.
Thank you. No,
muchas gracias. Muchas gracias.
Time problem.
Ok. Como habéis visto, hay siempre una declaración más amplia. Y sobre todo, bueno, la pregunta que nos mueve a todos es la pregunta del contacto, ¿no? ¿Sería posible entrar en contacto con esta inteligencia, tal cual sea? Y por este motivo quisiera preguntar a Francisco de subir en el escenario para leernos la declaración de posición de la coalición internacional por la investigación extraterrestre acerca de la cuestión del contacto.
Bueno, voy a decirlo en español y después en inglés. Eso que es más fácil, ¿no? ¿No? ¿En español? Ok. Entonces, esto es la declaración de posición de ICER en respecto a contacto. Entonces, ICER reconoce que existe un contacto y una interacción entre humanos y una inteligencia no humana o extraterrestre en un ámbito global y que es una realidad. ICER también acepta que esta interacción con estas inteligencias puede ocurrir en un número muy complejo de formas y por eso es difícil entender una definición concreta acerca de esto y por eso necesita de más investigación. En lugar a las muchas futuras implicaciones para la humanidad en referente al contacto, ICER se muestra receptiva y pronta a asistir a la sociedad en general para aumentar esta conciencia de lo que es el contacto. ¿Quieres que hable también en inglés? ¿No? Perfecto. Gracias.
Yeah, Robert, we'll now go into a Q&A, but I think Robert...
Muchísimas gracias, Francisco, para este posicionamiento en cuanto al contacto. Ahora queremos darles la ocasión de hacerles preguntas, si tienen algunas preguntas, y habrá una persona con un micrófono. Por ahí hay una pregunta. Ahí, ya.
A la izquierda en el pasillo central, arriba.
Hello, my name is Tony Buckingham from the UK. I'd like to ask ISA if they've thought to contact the Chinese to see if they would be interested in joining ISA.
The answer is we've made several attempts to locate and identify a suitable Chinese representative. Alas, we've had no response. The original people have come and gone. We then approached a different well-known researcher. He did not respond. So we have tried. What you've got to understand is that the more we go public, the more the scrutiny is on our choices as representatives and deputies. Therefore, we are much more careful now, we have gone public, about our vetting process because they carry a lot of responsibility. So we've been very careful. We are now 28 countries.
¿Hay otra pregunta por aquí? No, bueno.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi pregunta es, a primera instancia, ¿qué primeros proyectos le gustaría realizar a ICER?
So which are the first projects that we are going to realize in ICER?
The first projects that we're really going to do, that we've concentrated on, and they're being worked on as we speak, are the awareness programs. The awareness programs respond to the question of what if it is real. Not for us in this room, because we probably think it's all very real, but for 95% of the world who have been lied to for the last 70 plus years, they are oblivious to the reality of this scenario, and therefore the what if question and the awareness programs is our first real initiative that we think is important, because we think that if there was an announcement next year, if there is no kind of ground preparation for people across the world, many people will suffer psychologically, and we want to try to reduce that.
Vale, tenemos el tiempo para 2 preguntas más. Sí, por favor.
Hola, buenas tardes. Rodrigo Tealdo, periodista argentino. Antes mencionaban que quieren incluir a sectores religiosos, militares, pero cuando nombramos al sector religioso creo que es un tema muy particular, porque no piensan que el tema religión abarca muchísimo y sería como una barrera poder incluir el tema ufología contra la religión, porque es una contra, ¿no?, a la religión. Es cambiar, como dijo Obama en algún momento, poner en juego un nuevo cambio en el mundo.
No estoy seguro si he entendido bien. Entonces la pregunta es si integrar a los...
No, I understand what you mean. Normally people may think that religion may be affected in a negative sense by the UFO problem. Frankly, I must confirm you that it is not like this as far as the Catholic Church is concerned, because in a lot of different situations, Catholic members of the Church expressed their positive approach towards the UFO problem. Besides, even the present Pope, Pope Francis, no more than 5 years ago, if I well remember, in a public occasion, said that the Church, well, can't ignore anything. So if by chance, he said, a delegation of Martians come here, and everybody said, but what's he doing? And he said, he smiled and said, the Martians, the guys, our children, they say have antennas and so on. That people come to us and may ask us, we want to be baptized. What shall we do? Do you understand that with this, Pope Francis answered to this question with a question? And this is extremely political. I think we have nothing to learn from the realpolitik of the Catholic Church. And I think that, as far as I can say, because I live in Italy, I had a lot of different occasions to confirm this. Well, probably the Catholic Church is trying to organize everything in a positive sense. That's all.
No tenemos tiempo de más, pero sí voy a pedir a todos los delegados y representantes de ICER que suban al escenario para que tomen ustedes una foto histórica. Sean periodistas o no sean periodistas, van a tener oportunidad de tener aquí la mayoría de representantes de ICER en Europa. Así que, Ansbro, Himon, profesor Filipov. Y así vamos a dar, además, un fuerte aplauso a todos y cada uno de ellos. Se pueden poner, si quieren, al centro, porque